So, at this point, you probably have watched several knife sharpening videos. Maybe some of them are ours, maybe some of them are not. As you may have several Japanese knives already, you probably noticed different knife makers have their own different way of making or beveling or sharpening knives. Today, I'm going to show you how to sharpen Fujiwara knives the way he intended for. Well, the very characteristics of Fujiwara-san's knives and how he sharpens is that he makes this primary bevel quite a bit of convex. It's got a little bit much more curvature, much more convexity than the other knife makers. Yet, he finishes at koba at such low angle. The reason why he does that is that because he forges and heat treats his steel so much harder than the other knife makers, he tried to make the bevel a little bit thicker so that it doesn't chip as easy, but by sharpening at such low angle will give you great edge. The reason why he does that is that he treats the knife to such a level of hardness that it makes it a little bit more fragile. So he makes that the bevel a little bit more convex to give it strength, but also he sharpens the very edge. He sharpens very edge at such low angle so that his knives are as sharp as it gets. You probably noticed that the first time you use this Fujiwara knives, it cuts like nothing else. It just cuts so smooth. So my intention today is to sharpen the bevel nicely convex and also sharpen the micro bevel at the same kind of level as Fujiwara, if I could. This type of technique can apply to not only Fujiwara Maboroshi that I'm sharpening today, but Nashiji and his Denka Naoto line as well. So here are the gears that I'm going to use today. I'm going to use basic, Knifewear 220 stone, heavy lifting, grinding, also making the bevel nice and convex. I'm going to use Knifewear 1000 stone. It is just kind of give it a nice kasumi finish. And these are two stones to make the bevel nice and convex. Then I will use the Hibiki 1000. Again, really, Hibiki 1000 is great stone to give really nice, precise edge, especially for the koba level, because it's such hard stone. Then I'm gonna finish polishing his knife up to 8000 grit. That's what he finishes his knives at. So I usually finish general, say, gyutos at 4000, but because of what he does and how he does, I'm gonna bring it up to 8000 grit. Don't forget to get a churing stones to keep the stone nice and flat, and usual honing rods to remove the burr, and a leather strap to finish the edge with. Let's get started. I'm going to use this 220 stone. 220 stone is very important. This stone is the foundation. It's going to build the foundation on this knife here. Needs a heavy lifting. I'm just truing the knife as well. This is actually a really important step to do before you start actually sharpening on the stone, because if the knife is bent and put that on the blade, put that on the stone, there are a lot of places that actually not going to touch on the stone properly. If you don't know more about how to straighten, there's actually a video for that. When you're sharpening a knife with the big hamaguri grind, hamaguri basically means clamshell in Japanese, so which is like this, right? When you're sharpening that kind of bevel, what you can do and what you want to do is to sharpen by sections. I usually start from the very bottom edge here, then go up like this. And for Fujiwara knives, what I would usually do is to set flat, then I will put the pressure at very close to the edge. So what I would do is, again, apply the pressure and also give a little bit of torsion with my wrist. Apply the pressure with my thumb as well. That actually gives you a tiny bit of angle at the very end. That very tiny angle. Basically working about millimeter or two just close to the edge. So I'm going to work on in 3 different sections. First, very edge gives you a little bit more twist and giving a little bit of angle. 2 more basically a neutral. I'm going to work on the middle part of this bevel. Then I'm gonna apply the pressure a little bit more towards the bevel, so it's going to give really nice convexity. What I'm going to start is again at the very edge here. This is neutral. You can see the little black color along the edge. If I do this, there isn't any. And if I do tiny bit more, that's where I'm holding my knife at. Probably between 2 to 5 degrees. So as you can see, I just worked on around 2 to 3 millimeters from the edge. That's where it's kind of it's been polished and a little bit shinier. It's just finished around 2 to 3 millimeters along the edge here. Then I'm going to move on to the midsection. Instead of giving a little bit of a twist with my wrist, I'll do a little bit more, I would probably call it neutral. I apply the pressure in the middle of the bevel. And I don't have much twisting action right here. I'll be doing a little bit more neutral back and forth motion, so that it touches that the little bit more whole bevel part. And I continue along the bevel. As you're sharpening, especially the midsection, well, any, I guess, Fujiwara knives, he finishes his bevel with the bell sander. So you can see the deeper kind of vertical scratch marks. They could be a little bit more deeper, and as I noticed, there are still some scratches left on the bevel right here. I wouldn't worry too much about them, as the he uses the stainless steel on the cladding. It's not going to cause any, I guess, rusting from that point on. I would usually go a little bit more farther so that this scratch is kind of gone, just to make it look prettier. So all you basically have to do is keep going with the 220 grit. You probably grind this away with the second or third sharpening. I just finished at the mid part. I will be working on one more part, which is right here, this way. My fingers are on the back bevel here. You can see here, bevel nicely even. Sharpen from here, the bevel, or the shinogi, sharpen it right at where we call it the shinogi line, all the way to the edge, nice and smooth. Also notice that the micro bevel that was gone too. On the other side, you can kind of see the micro bevel there, where it's really hard to see the micro bevel now. Once I'm done the one side, I'm going to move on to the other side. It's basically the same. If you're comfortable, this particular technique is really easy to do it with the both hands instead of one hand. So if you're gonna learn, this is a good time to actually learn how to use both hands for sharpening. And again, I'm starting from the very edge, like 2 to 3 millimeters to begin. Then I will do the mid part or the neutral part, then pretty close to the shinogi. So it's like 3 different angles. So I just moved on to the midsection, which is, I call it neutral. I just place my fingers in kind of middle of the bevel. Lightish pressure. And at the very end, I will work on just close to the bevel part right here. So now this side as well, the micro bevel is gone and made it nicely even, except the part that's right here that had the little low spots. It can happen because the initial grind, often knife makers use this big vertical wheel that can cause the bevel to cave in a little bit. So there is a little bit of concave. I wouldn't worry too much about this. If I were to remove this, grind this off, I would have to remove so much more steel off and end up losing a lot of edge as well. So I would keep it for this particular case. There are several ways that you can grind off or use the sandpaper to evens it out, but I would leave this for today. So that's where all the heavy liftings are done. Then I'm moving on to the next stone. So I'm going to use this guy here, the Knifewear 1000. Relatively soft. This is more for the kind of aesthetic than anything else, because when you're finished, when the bevel is finished with 220 grit, the scratches are quite deep, and often, especially the white carbon number of steel, very deep scratches can cause the rust development a little faster. So I would probably polish it a little bit more. Even I could polish the core steel with a finer grit so that it won't rust as easy or patina as easy. As this 1000 is quite soft, I will probably use the two different angles. One is really close to the edge, then neutral or the bevel-ish kind of two angles. Because what softer stone does is that it hugs or it kind of has enough cushion that can touch on the larger surface area than the harder stones do. So like softer stone like Knifewear 1000, you don't really have to work on, you could do it 3 sections, but this stone in particular, you can definitely do the same finish with the 2 different sections. So I'm gonna start from the close to the edge section first. And you probably noticed that it covers more surface area than the 220 grit does. It covers probably about a double of the space than the 220 was covering. So I just finished the just along the edge, but it actually touches quite a bit of farther up as well. So I'm just gonna sharpen neutral to a little bit more farther up. Nice and even. You can kind of see the line here. That's that's a little bit, not so much bevel, but that's kind of one of the indications that the bevel is convexed. Although it's visible right now, you won't feel it when you're cutting. I'm just gonna do that the other side. Again, it's the same thing. 2 probably sections on this softer stone close to the edge. Once that's done, move on to the little bit higher up. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a little low spot right here. You could use the sandpaper to blend them in, or if you have like a lot of sharpening stones like we do, we have these stones, finger stones. That's basically a small flaked off part of this Knifewear 1000. You could work on like this to blend them in. You don't have to. This is really the aesthetic portion of it, so you don't have to do this. This is almost just a makeup, putting the makeup on the knife. It does hide it. I could probably work a little bit more. So I'm going to polish this up one more step further for the functionality standpoint. White number 1 carbon steel, because it's such a pure steel, it oxidizes a little faster than, say, compared to the Aogami or Aogami Super for the Denka. So what I'm going to do is just going to polish the core part a little bit more finer so that it doesn't oxidize as fast. It's pretty easy because this has really big convexity on it. What I would do is take the, say, 4000 or some like little finer stone and put the knife vertical, then just press down on this core steel part. Then it just starts to, just the core steel starts to shine. This is like purely aesthetic, so Well, I guess this may be a little bit different than what Fujiwara does, because he uses the bell sander to finish his bevel. But this has functionality reason as well, so I like to do this kind of polishing the core steel, the Hagane, better. Yeah, I mean, it looks fun and it looks fancy, and you can do this for fun and look. I'm basically doing it for function, but also looks pretty. I'm just doing that the same on the other side. For some of you who knows about, Kasumi polish finish, this is one of the easier Kasumi finish that you can put on. This stone is really like Knifewear 4000 is quite hard stone, so that if you just put it flat on the bevel, sometimes it doesn't give the really nice clean Kasumi. But so here it's not perfect, but here is the kind of results. It gets really nicely polished along the edge, and the cladding steel kind of remains that nice and cloudy. So this is kind of how I stop for thinning and sharpening the bevel. It's got a really nice convexity here as well. From here, what Fujiwara-san does is he sharpens the micro bevel or koba at crazy low angle. So I just took the Hibiki 1000 to just get the really precise edge. It doesn't have any cushion, right? So it gets really, really nice V edge on it. This is probably about the angle that I'm sharpening at, and I'm gonna sharpen Fujiwara at this. So I'm sharpening, this is around say 15, I'm sharpening about 10. He may be sharpening his at 8. Beyond the angle, there isn't any special techniques per se. I like this stone though because there isn't any cushion. Like the one that Knifewear 1000 that I was using, it's really great general stone, but when it comes to sharpening like this low angle, you want to make sure the edge is really nice and straight and nice fine V to it. So that's why I like this Hibiki 1000. So you do it until you raise the burr, like regular knives. You could do this way, low, very, very low. If you don't know how to do this already, go check out the Nathan's basic sharpening video. So, raise the burr, then change the stone. Ideally, from this one as well, use a really, really hard stone. Knifewear 4000, Knifewear 8000 is pretty good for that particular reason. You could definitely use something like Naniwa Professionals. You want a hard stone because you already established really fine V with the hard stone. So you want to keep that trend going. Same thing, very low angle. Alrighty, so now I'm going to finish with this 8000 grit. So once you pass 1000 grit, going to 4000 and this 8000, what you want to do is build the slurry. What you will see is these black slurries. That's a mixture of the steel particles as well as a bit of abrasives from the stone and a bit of adhesives. Like this particular one is the magnesia adhesives. So it kind of combines all together, and all of them will polish the knife really nicely. You want to sharpen them at a little bit lighter pressure than when you're grinding using the 220 grit and stuff like that. And listen to it. Sometimes you hear a little clicking sound, and they will lessen as you sharpen them. Because all that the bigger particles, it's just going to break it down and it becomes a little bit more smoother. So it became really nice and smooth and pretty quiet. I'm going to move on to the other side. Taking the burr off, then use the leather strap. I'm just going to this time use the leather part. It just really feels, it's the same thing. It just feels a little bit smoother when I finish with the 8000 grit. I like to use the leather side than the suede side. I don't think it does make that much of difference, but I would like to feel that way. Just gonna test the edge with, if there's any burrs, chips left with this sharpening. Just gonna make sure there isn't any there. Some people test do the nail test. This is really nice and smooth. It kind of bites into it. It doesn't slide off, but it doesn't bite into it. It's so smooth that it just sits right on. When you leave the edge a little bit more toothy, what happens is that they want to cut it into it. It's like a saw, where if you keep the edge nice and smooth, it slides a little bit nicer. Nice and smooth. So this is the finished product. It's kind of hard to see, but the micro bevel there is actually quite wide. You can't really see the micro bevel because I polished it up. It almost matches to the polish of the Hagane 4000. So yeah, you can see the micro bevel that's a little wider than the most knife makers do. But yeah, well, that's kind of how he sharpens it, right? It's slightly different method, but the principle is the same. Make a little bit more bigger convexity and sharpens the final micro bevel at very, very low angle than any other knife makers I've actually seen. So it gets really super fine. You'll be surprised when you first use the Fujiwara-san's knife. It just like wants to cut into it and even like cuts into the cutting board. So it's ultimate like sharpness, but he puts the little bit more bigger convexity so that it gives you a little bit more structure, a little bit more durability. This is how you could sharpen the Fujiwara like he intended for. Well, if you have any other knife makers, knives that you like to know how to sharpen them, leave us in a comment.